Hey everyone, my name is Aiden Miller and I hope you're having a fantastic day or night. Today I'm going to give you a complete rundown of my tone, pedal board, and everything in my day-to-day gigging rig as a worship and recording musician. I'll be focusing primarily on the gear side of things rather than showing off my specific guitars or playing techniques, as I usually try and shoot for a similar bass tone regardless of guitar or pickup choice. So with that in mind, let's jump into this board review and take a look at some awesome pedals. So as far as the physical board itself, this is a 30-inch by 18-inch flat style board made by a guy named Earfuzz Effects on Reverb, who builds these super premium boards at an absolute budget price. It's super tough, it's got big rubber feet on it, and I've had absolutely no complaints. I've been using this setup for about 4 months. It holds pedals, which is all a board is really supposed to do. As far as the cables go on this pedal board job, they're all completely custom. So for the power cables, I simply took the standard one-spot power cables and cut them to length and re-terminated them with Kobicon soldered connectors, and they're easy to maintain, the best option for making your custom power cables. And for signal cables, I am using entirely Mogami 2319 for all my patch cable, instrument cable TS runs, with square plug SP500 connectors, which are the best lowest profile connector on the market. And for the TRS runs, I'm using just standard XLR cable. I'm using the SP550S, which is just the TRS version of that square plugs connector with 3 conductors, and it works an absolute treat. For transporting this pedal board, this is a fairly large board, so finding a case for it can be a little difficult, especially given the height of the riser on the back. I did some resourceful searching on eBay for cases with close to the correct dimensions, and I happened to come across this Bad Case and Rack Systems out of New Orleans, Louisiana. But got this case off of eBay for around $100 ship. I refoamed it with some custom foam from DIYroadcases.com and re-glued it, and it is the absolute perfect size, and I can just throw this case on a dolly or in the back of a truck and have absolutely no worries about anything getting broken. I can take this anywhere I need to with no worries about the case breaking or anything on the pedal board breaking. As you might imagine, powering this pedal board is not any small feat, since most of these pedals are high current digital pedals, and there are really only 2 supplies out there that I would trust to do that, and that would be the Strymon Zuma and Ojai series, which are fantastic power supplies, and the TrueTone Pro series, which is what I'm using here. So I have a TrueTone CS12 and CS7 both on this board, and you can see in the back there's 2 power cables coming out of it. I'm still only plugging in 1 cord, and I just have a custom splitter cable on there that splits to 2 IEC outlets, and the CS12 takes care of the wireless unit, all of the drive pedals, and the HX Stomp, and the CS7 takes care of all of the Strymon pedals and the MORNINGSTAR MC8 MIDI controller. So very first in the signal chain, we have the Line 6 Relay G10, which is Line 6's entry-level wireless unit. The only drawbacks is that it's on 2.4 gigahertz, so you may have some interference issues based on how saturated the RF environment of your venue is, but I've really had no issues using it at home, at a church, or anywhere else. It's just a very small and nice form factor that works out. So for the first actual tones of this demo, here is the Ernie Ball Volume Pedal Junior. This is the first thing in my chain after the wireless, and it is completely unmodded. It is just the simplest thing you can imagine. I like the look of these. It matches, kind of the extrusion on the pedal board. I like the feel. They feel tough, even if the string does like to break at the most inopportune times. And the sweep on them is good. It's smooth. So that has been a staple on my board for quite a while. It's still an essential to have on the board, I think. And the output of the VP Junior is then running into the Spark Boost, which is directly beside it. And this is just a clean boost. Sometimes I'll use it to push other stuff harder, and it works well to push the amp drive in the Iridium or the HX Stomp harder. So this is chime on the Iridium. So that's dry, and you can hear as soon as I kick this in. It provides just kind of that little extra kick, and especially pushing other overdrives, you can get into some pretty crazy territory. And moving on from there, the signal flow is actually not linear across the board. We jump from the Spark into the Fulltone OCD V2. It's just good at that kind of Marshall in a box sound when you can hear. I'm effectively just running it as a clean boost based on the settings, volume cranked, tone cranked, and drive all the way down. And running from the output of the OCD, we are going into the classic tube screamer. Everyone knows what a tube screamer sounds like. I'm not typically a huge fan of their sound, but it's kind of a classic flavor of overdrive you have to have for pushing other drives. So here's what that sounds like. And I usually, that can work well for a lead. So let me kick on some delay and reverb here, and you can hear how this might sound with like a lead or something. Something like that with heavy trails and heavy verb. And from the tube screamer, we jump all the way down here into the TL Pedals clone. And Tim is a guy in Canada who makes very, very boutique, well-made custom pedals. I've had this probably since November of last year, and it is just fantastic. This is, other than the 1981, this is probably my favorite drive to use with already broken up amps, because it just works so well as a clean boost, especially into a chimey Vox style amp. So if we go ahead and kick that on, here's what that sounds like. So you can see it kind of just adds that element of thickness and richness that, the Klon is legendary for. And from there, we run into my all-time favorite drive on my board, which is the 1981 Inventions DRV. Provides for the thickest, creamiest lead tones that you can ever imagine. So here's what that sounds like. It works well with the Vox amps. It has kind of a similar set of controls. It has a cut knob, which I really like for taming the high-end response, and it is absolutely fantastic. And from there, we run backwards into this TC Electronics Sentry Gate. It's a tool for me that allows to cut out noise, especially playing single coils and noisy environments with a lot of EMF. This can cut down on that. And there's also a gate inside the Helix, which is also a very good gate. If I wanted to use this for some sort of stylistic effect or whatever, I could definitely do that. And from there, we can go ahead and click that off, and that runs into the Polytune 3. Basically, everyone has a Polytune at this point. I have it set on strobe mode, just for more accuracy, but I have never had any issues with my Polytune. And the output of the Polytune goes directly into the HX Stomp, which is really kind of the mastermind of this pedal board. I really cannot say enough about the HX Stomp. This pedal specifically has changed everything about how I'm able to route signal, the control I have over my tone. It's just fantastic. So essentially what I'm using the Stomp for, before I had the Iridium, I would use it to run amp models, but my primary use of the Stomp is using it as sort of a DSP or systems processor. I run compressors and I run console EQs in here, just like I would run it front of house if I was mixing. I am running, basically, I have a super dramatic compressor for stylistic effect if I'm doing like tapping parts. I have an extra drive thrown in here. I have the effects loop block, which is where all the strymons are running. I have 2 EQ block, or the parametric EQs. That's really about it. That's usually just about what I run. The essence of my Stomp is that it works as a headphone amp. It works as a USB interface if I don't feel like using the XLR out. It does really a lot of the heavy lifting, and just the effects loop and routing capability on this thing are killer. So speaking of the effects loop, this is where my first TRS send is. So I send directly out of the effects loop into the back of the Iridium into its stereo input. So my Iridium is seeing stereo input from the Stomp. You've probably heard of it at this point, but it is really one of the best amp sims in this form factor. Usually I run on there's 3 amp models. There's Round, Chime, and Punch, which Round is modeling a deluxe reverb, Chime modeling an AC30, and Punch modeling a Marshall style, Flexi style amp. The Ownhammer IRs really provide a fantastic experience. They utilize something called the Haas effect. Here's the same exact patch, just with one of those IRs versus the same IR in mono. So here's the mono. And now we'll spread that to stereo. And I just have the 2 stereo outputs connected, and I'm running to the Mobius after it, which is the best modulation pedal on the market. I use it primarily for trem and effects like this, Can't beat the Mobius, can't beat the strymon stuff. So that runs stereo into the timeline, which is also a fantastic delay. So let me just kick the Big Sky off. Got it set up on the classic dotted eighth right now, but the timeline can do literally every single delay that you would ever want. I primarily use the D-tape algorithm, sometimes D-bucket if I'm looking for a short slap back, and then digital and dual and pattern and revert. All the engines on here are awesome. And that runs stereo into the Big Sky, as you might imagine, which is last in my chain. I've had it for almost a year, and the reverb tones on it are fantastic. And you can get all sorts of characteristic bright verbs out of it too, especially out of the plate algorithm. Like, just adds another dimension to your tone that I have not found in any other reverb pedal. And one of my personal favorite settings is this one I have dialed in right there, which is full mix on the plate setting, and it just for ambient swells and stuff. It's incredible. So here's a bit of that. I mean, that was a tone that had been in my head for years. And that goes back into the stereo return of the HX Stomp and straight out of the HX Stomp to my Art Stereo DI. I just plug into front of house that way. It just works. It's simple. There's not much to it. Sounds like a DI should, which is completely transparent. And at that point, my signal is going to front of house. Usually, for most of my recording, it goes into my Behringer 2i4 or my home X32 console. And that is really the entire signal flow of my board as far as audio goes. But to only talk about the audio signal flow would leave out a massive part of my board, and that would be the MORNINGSTAR MC8 controller. The MORNINGSTAR controller is a full-featured MIDI controller, and that is how I control every single MIDI-capable pedal on this board. So all the strymon pedals and the HX Stomp are fully manipulated by the MC8. Here's a live stream recording session that I was at, and I was playing acoustic and electric. So with one button switch, everything is off. I can step on this. Everything calls the correct preset on the pedals. It goes back to my Iridium patch on the Stomp, puts the Iridium on the correct preset, calls the correct cabinet, amp, settings, everything. And I have, a toggle for the Mobius right here, so I can turn on Trem, which is tempo synced, also sends synchronized tempo to literally everything, so I don't have to worry about dialing in custom tempos for everything else. This controls delay mix. Right there just toggles back and forth. This controls like a completely wet setting that I played for you earlier, and it just works. I've had fantastic customer support with them, and it just works and controls everything like it should. But I know you're probably thinking you're tired of hearing me talk at this point about all these amazing pedals and probably want to hear how they sound. So fear not, I'm going to show you all of my favorite sounds that I get out of these pedals. So thank you for sticking with me throughout this entire massive overview, and I promise the tones will be worth it. So please enjoy.
so